yet another teenager who would have to spend Valentine's Day alone. She threw herself on the bed, sighing. She was exhausted after an afternoon of hard work. She put her laptop on her legs and started to check out her social media. Everyone's statuses were filled with heart emojis, photos of hugs, and mushy phrases. Seeing that made her sick, and it's not like she gets sick easily. But suddenly, she realized the stabbing she was feeling in her stomach was due to something different, or rather, someone different. She searched the profile of a boy named Jeffrey Woods. She opened the chat tab, and there they were, dozens of messages written by her with no response from Jeffrey. She felt very sad, and a tear started to go down her cheek. She wiped the tear using a corner of the blanket, but then she realized she had stained her cheek with blood. The blood came from the body of a girl that laid by her side, just as if she were a horror doll. Nina casually set aside the body with a kick. It fell on the floor face down, revealing several stabbings on her back. Filled with gloom, Nina looked at the splashes of blood on the wall, as well as an inscription written in blood that said, "Sleep with me, my love." That was another message for the same recipient. Nina looked back at the chat window and hesitated about writing yet another message. Outside of the house, Jeff was crouching while he observed Nina laying on the bed. He had been following her lately and was having a great time observing her massacres. It really seemed the pupil was besting the master. It was awesome how with just a couple of knife movements she entered the parents in the living room. And the way she savagely stabbed that girl in the back, you could tell that Nina had the same spirit and bloodlust as Jeff. Maybe he was starting to feel something for her? The vibration on his phone interrupted his thoughts. He had a new message from Nina Hopkins. He observed her again, laying on the bed, typing on her laptop, and the smile in his whitish face turned more marked and evil. He stood up and went away from that place while answering the message on his phone. Evening came, and Jeff arrived at the doorsteps of a small restaurant in the outskirts. He covered his head with his hood. He looked at the entrance. It was filled with pompous decorations with hearts and cupids everywhere, with a sign that said, "Today, special Valentine's Day dinner." That made him feel sick, as he strongly held a knife he had hidden under his hoodie. His lust for killing increased, and he put his eye on a woman in the side alley. It was most likely one of the employees taking out the trash. He was about to rush towards her, but managed to contain himself. There would be enough time for that later. But for now, he was waiting for someone else. In the alley, Eve threw some trash bags into the trash container while dreading the several work hours she still had before her. That was the date she hated the most in the entire year. The hypocrisy, the unnecessary spending, the ridiculousness of it all for people to go back to arguing and yelling at each other the next day, showing their true selves. Moreover, her boss required her to wear that embarrassing pink uniform, smile at all times, and congratulate the customers. When she came back into the restaurant, for a moment she reveled in the idea of grabbing one of the knives in the kitchen and venting off all of her frustration by becoming the author of the biggest Valentine's Day massacre in history. But that was just dark humor, she told herself. She would never do something like that. When she was heading back to the kitchen, she saw a couple of young people coming to the restaurant, a couple of creepy and weird teenagers. As soon as Jeff and Nina went in, a waiter stopped them and asked them if they had a reservation. Jeff said, "Of course, here it is." And with a swift movement, Jeff sliced the throat of the waiter, stopping him from uttering another word. We can sit whatever we want. Thank you. Here, have a tip," said Jeff as he proceeded to stab the waiter in the gut, finally ending his suffering. Jeff and Nina gave a quick glance to the half a dozen tables occupied with couples who were having a romantic dinner. Jeff told Nina, "What do you think, my love? You go for the ones on the right and I go for the ones on the left? Nina responded, I'd rather go for the ones on the left because that's the side where the heart is. And thus, with knives in hand, Jeff and Nina quickly pounced over their victims. The first couples died practically without realizing what was going on. The next ones were unable to react, paralyzed in fear due to such a macabre show. The last couples had a small chance to escape, but Jeff and Nina quickly cut them off, making it impossible for them to run away. Jeff's and Nina's synchronization as a couple of killers was truly lethal. When they had finally killed all of the couples, a deathly silence filled the place. The two of them looked at each other's eyes, and she decided to get closer and kiss him. But Jeff stopped her in the last moment. "Honey, wait! We're not done yet." Nina nodded, trying to hide her embarrassment. Then the two killers split up to finish the job. Jeff went towards the kitchen, and Nina went to the toilets. When Nina got into the women's toilet, she saw how all of the stalls were empty except for one. She remained very still, attentively listening in silence, until she heard someone gasping. She rushed towards the occupied stall, opening the door with a kick, and found a female cook curled inside and paralyzed in terror. In a very sly way, Nina said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was occupied." In the kitchen, Jeff looked around carefully, but didn't see anybody. He turned away to leave the kitchen, but all of a sudden, Eve came out of her hiding place under a cabinet. And armed with a kitchen knife, rushed towards Jeff and stabbed him in the shoulder. Jeff fell on the floor, and Eve quickly searched for something to finish him off, but a hard time was not enough. Witnessing what had happened, Nina furiously rushed into the kitchen and knocked down Eve, making Eve hit her head and fall unconscious. "Whoa, another sourpuss who hates Valentine's Day, huh? It is because you don't have someone to spend it with?" Nina and Jeff looked at each other with passion once again. "Maybe a change of look might help her find someone," said Nina while pointing at a bottle of bleach in the cabinet. When Jeff saw it, he looked at Nina with a hopeful smile. Minutes later, when policemen arrived, they witnessed what can only be described as a macabre show. Everyone present in the restaurant had been savagely killed. Only a waitress had survived, who now had several burns on her face. On each table, the corpses of the couples remained seated, with their hearts extracted from their chests and put close together on the table. On the wall, there was a message written in blood that said, "Now go to sleep, lover."